Hi there, I'm Vicki Mizell, and welcome to my first podcast of the Media Firestorm with Angel Tessie and Jamie. And I wanted to first explain, people ask me, how did I first get interested in this memory program that I've been doing now for 40 plus years? And when I was 26 years old, I was in grad school the first time, and I was practicing and taking a course in statistics. I wasn't good at math, and so statistics was really scaring me, and I was taking Tums at break, and I was really worried that I was going to flunk. And I met a memory expert, and he told me to hire him, and he would help me learn the memory system and help me with statistics. So the first thing in statistics, I really couldn't think of what average was and what the mean, mode, and it was mean, mode, and median. And so I asked him to help me with it. So he said mean means the average. He was from New York. And he thought the average person in New York, especially in the winter time when you're walking and buses sometimes would slush cold water on you and it was icy and people would slip. He said the average person in New York is mean. Now, I was from Tulsa, so I just kind of had to take his word for it. I since lived in New York, and I find that New York people are actually very friendly and kind and loyal. But at the time, it really worked for me to do this for statistics. And then I said, okay, what about ode? Ode is the word that comes up most often. So he said, when you think of accidents and illnesses, the most average number that comes up most often for older people who die is old, and old sounds like ode. So that reduced my anxiety, and I said, well, what about median? Median is the number that's the one in the middle. And I said, well, median could sound like comedian, and think of a comedian in the circle in the round. So I was starting to catch on, and I got the idea of it. So with that, he taught me this method of association in about an hour. And at the time, I was living in San Diego. And I had a 2-week position where I was a substitute school teacher for some students who had been very dependent on their teacher. And it was they were called last chance kids. So they were basically kids that most of them came from another country, or they weren't very good at reading. And this teacher would just acknowledge them for showing up. They didn't even have to perform. So I thought to myself, to get them ready for a new school teacher, because the teacher they had just wanted to be a mom, and she ended up getting a child and adopted them, and adopted the child and left the kids. So the kids were mad, they were upset, and so I had to do a lot of negotiating with them, and I wanted to teach them how to be intrinsically motivated. So this I did on my own, but then I used it with the memory system. So I had already learned the memory system in just one night, and I took to it like a duck to water. So I thought about it, and I wrote on the board intrinsic, system, structure, and value. Because I thought if they intrinsically could motivate themselves, if they had a system to do it, if they had a good foundation that had a strong structure, and they were able to start to value themselves, not just based on somebody else's approval or disapproval of them, then I could get them ahead of the game. And so that's what I did. So I wrote intrinsic, and the memory system is you break a word into syllables and you make each syllable tangible. So I thought of Rin Tin Tin in a box getting sick, to remember intrinsic. So I explained Rin Tin Tin was this great dog, and he wasn't feeling very good, and so he got sick. But intrinsic is what's going on inside you. And although the dog was sick, that was just the sounds like to help with that. Then I wrote system. I drew a picture of a flower, and we saw the stem. And I said the stem is the thing that gives the nutrients from the water and the soil up to the seed and the blossom. And that's what you are as you're soaking up knowledge and starting to be able to thrive. Then I explained foundation, that when you have a strong building, a strong foundation, when you yourself have a strong body of knowledge and a sense of who you are, then you'll be able to stay sturdy and continue to grow from there. And then when I was teaching them about value, I thought about a diamond, and I said a diamond is considered very valuable, and think of yourself as a diamond. So these students really were able to take in the information. I taught them the memory system, which is a 4-step process. Then I showed them how to use it with vocabulary and spelling. And by the end of the first week, when I gave them a spelling test, the kids all really achieved well. Some of them even went up a whole grade point. And then just naturally, because they were feeling better about themselves, they ended up dressing better, they started treating each other better, and by the end of 2 weeks, some of the students had gone up 2 whole grade averages. All of them had gone up at least one. And so every day I was going into the principal's office and saying, listen to what's happening with this memory system. Listen to what's happening with the kids. You know, they're dressing better, they're treating each other better, they're scoring better on their grades. And so at the end of 2 weeks, I said, do you want to hire me now to be their regular teacher? And he said, Vicki, you know, you love this memory system so much. You were so passionate about it. I don't want to cage you in a classroom. I think you would be better off becoming a consultant for the school district and teaching this memory program throughout all of the district. So I thought about what he said, and I had a neighbor who was a teacher in Poway schools. I lived in San Diego. Well, she lived in San Diego too, but she was teaching in Poway. And so I was able to get she got me into the school in Poway, and I taught 4 different classes. I think it was art, English, history, and probably drama, knowing me. And then after, I think it was 6 or 8 weeks of doing it, I called the newspaper, had someone come do a report. A reporter did a story on me and the students. It was published, and then I sent the article to San Diego City Schools, asked for an appointment, and said, if you don't hire me, I'm going to go to Poway. And so I had a meeting with the head of the gifted program, which is where they had money, and he ended up hiring me. And I was able to teach the memory system as a consultant in San Diego City Schools for the next 5 years. So the reason why I'm telling you this story is that it was so exciting to see the students learn. And then as I was teaching first the memory system and then the sounds like method and large amounts of information, I would teach 2 one-hour sessions in 60 schools a year. My own ability started increasing tremendously. I had a good memory, but I did not have a good visual memory. So one thing was I couldn't hold images in my mind, so I wasn't a good reader, and I certainly was not good with reading comprehension. That started to change during the first year where I was teaching these, I guess 120 classes throughout the San Diego City Schools district. So I started seeing images coming through my mind. I started being able to hold images of sunsets. I started remembering people's names. I was able to hold those images in my mind. Then I started having almost eidetic recall. Then I started dreaming in color, which a lot of people have that ability, but I didn't have that ability. And I realized that this was not only helping my memory, but it was helping my brain. My brain was getting sharper, it was getting faster. I started thinking at the speed of light. It was just one of the most amazing things. So I encourage you to keep listening. This is my first podcast. I just wanted to give you an introduction to my excitement and zeal to this beginning memory program. And I will continue telling you not just what happened with the kids and with me, but what started happening to other people as I was teaching the memory system to them.